And away we go. As most episodes, before getting to the news, let's just have a look at the Discord group chat. That whatever spark our interests. Not that we agree with these people, it's just, I'm drawn to this somehow. Who knows? So, firstly, Risk 11 sent a YouTube video about, of course, Jeffrey Epstein. He had a Fortnite account. And this is not like. Actually, this is very important to note. I don't know why in the last episode on another podcast I didn't play the audio. But I think it'll make sense if I play the audio here. So here's that YouTube video. Wow, it's taken a while to play. Like it always does.
Saying that they found Jeffrey Epstein's Fortnite account. The files have this YouTube receipt which shows his username to be LittlestJeff1. And if you look up that same username on Fortnite Tracker, the account does exist. Not to mention, one of the files shows an email about him buying V-Bucks. Now here's what a lot of people don't realize. If this is his account, he's still alive. According to the user's stats, they ranked in Chapter 5, Season 1, which was in late 2023. Jeffrey Epstein was announced dead in 2019. Did we just find out Jeffrey Epstein's still alive because he was playing Fortnite recently? I don't think so. If you look at the overview of their stats, you can see that this user was pretty damn good, and I just don't believe that Jeffrey Epstein was low-key cracked at Fortnite, unless he was, like, letting the kids play.
Not saying it's true. It is. Maybe it's just someone posing as Jeffrey Epstein. Like, the moment people found out that Epstein unalived himself in prison, and someone thought it was a good idea, I'll present to Jeffrey Epstein. And trick everyone to thinking he's still alive and whatnot. That could be the case. But if it is true that Jeffrey Epstein is still alive, and he did play Fortnite, then he's not a very good Fortnite player. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'm not sure what's up with that. I know there's a lot of people talking about Epstein now, ever since more of the files have been released to the public, and more of the survivors have now officially come forward about what the man himself had done to them at a young age. Yeah, it's all in the hive right now, so on and so forth. Alright, I've sent a YouTube video, and the title is Antonov Transports President's Marine One. And yeah, I'm not sure how else I'd describe it, but it just have a listen to this.
In cargo bay, ready for transfer. But you're green for takeoff. Tower, has anyone seen the president? He was last. Please tell me you did pre-flight inspection and the president isn't inside that helicopter.
Excuse me, why am I sitting in a cargo bay right now?
That explains why cargo is so heavy today. My sincere apologies, Orange Man.
Antonov's kidnapping the commander-in-chief. Intercepting immediately.
This was just honest transport mistake. I didn't know he was inside.
Actually, this cargo bay has more legroom than Air Force One. Antonov, you're hired.
This isn't a real story. This isn't real in the slightest. This is all AI generated. The YouTube account, Crispy Flights, whoever it was the person that posted that video on YouTube Shorts. I found it somewhat funny. It's not like haha or ha 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 funny. It's like aha, good one. So yeah. Surely the lads will have a laugh with that one too, although much more so than I would. Alright, next. Eric Taylor has something to say. He said that Jared's 15-year sentence is almost complete, and his response is to a screenshot for what seems to be from Google's Gemini with the bullet point release date. Fogel is scheduled to be released from federal prison on March 24th, 2029. Wow. Now, I can't say I don't know much about Jared Fogel, who he is, and what he's even done to even get that 15-year prison sentence. It's not far off, to be honest. Okay, maybe they're a couple years off, but on a decade scale, it's pretty close. So yeah, that's all I have to say on that. Because I know much on that. Eric Taylor also sent something regarding Epstein. Like, at this day and age, everyone's talking about Epstein. This is a Twitter X post, and he responded saying, "I wonder how people are going to react when he's out." Oh no, this is about Jared. This is about Jared Fogle. He responded. Eric Taylor responded to the Jeffrey Epstein somewhat lookalike Twitter X post saying, "Does this guy look like Jeffrey Epstein?" I had to zoom in quite closely because the picture in question is looking like a guy with a very, not too bushy, but a beard that seems to be bushy, wearing sunglasses and has somewhat of a similar hairstyle to I do. I have long hair, by the way, for those who don't know what I look like. But of course, he has grey long hair and a grey beard, goatee-ish beard. This grey bearded sunglasses looking fellow is surrounded by younger lads that seems to be some of his security detail. And looking to the signage, and the picture in question has two white signs with arrows pointing to the right, based off the position the photo was taken. One reads Hangus Ev, and the second one reads Tel Aviv. So I'm guessing this is taken in Israel. So, bada boom, bada bing. Make of that information as you will. If Jeffrey Epstein is still alive, something's going to be done. The thing is, if people find out that Jeffrey Epstein is still alive, and there is no other way for whoever involved to skip her out of this one, what are the authorities going to do when everyone finds out that Jeffrey Epstein is still alive, on top of inevitable evidence that certainly proves the existence and the alive presence of Jeffrey Epstein? To the point that even people amongst the useful idiots and the strong in denial groups of people are responding like, I guess Jeffrey Epstein is alive after all. Yeah, let's see what happens next. And best of luck to him, I guess. So those are the type of reactions that's likely to happen. But that won't happen because whoever these people are trying to conceal what seems to be an identity of Jeffrey Epstein, not doing a good job under the fact that most people don't know it's Jeffrey Epstein, or these people that are guarding him are doing a very good job. If the case is that most people know that this man is indeed Jeffrey Epstein, it depends on the context and the perspective. I will say that, assuming it is Jeffrey Epstein, whoever these people are trying to hide him from the public, they're doing a good job. But it won't last forever. It won't last forever. Alright, Risk 11 sent another YouTube video by, oh my brightness, the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. The caption reads, "Absolute carnage," and then the caption within the thumbnail of that YouTube video reads, "The adults are back in the room." I didn't get a chance to watch this episode. I think, given recent events regarding Lord Mandelson and Mandelson's connections with the Epstein files, yeah, it's not looking good. And I'm not saying all of this in regards to the YouTube video that Risk 11 has sent in the group chat. I've heard quite recently, as of this recording, that Lord Peter Mandelson is in very, very hot water right now regarding his connections with Jeffrey Epstein, and even living in his house when Jeffrey Epstein had been in prison during the time that most people assume he has been alive. Or at least people know he is alive at that time. And I had a discussion with one of my family members about Lord Mandelson and the vetting process and the interviews in regards to Lord Mandelson to become the UK's ambassador when it got in regards to representing the UK to people in the United States. The thing is, and this is true by the way, the people in the vetting process, they knew Mandelson had relations with Jeffrey Epstein. The thing was, the questions that was asked to him at the time were very, badly phrased. That gave Mandelson the opportunity to say, "Oh yes, I did this," but also I try to stay away from that. And I don't talk to those people anymore and such. Whilst Mandelson did respond to those vetting questions accurately and truthfully, apparently, the reason he responded in such a way and the way he did to those questions, the questions in question themselves, were badly phrased, meaning, whilst they got information about Mandelson before becoming UK ambassador to the United States, it wasn't enough to get an idea of what Mandelson is like, or whether or not he still has connection with the most infamous people in the world. That's at least what one of my family members had told me. So, you know what? That makes sense. It really makes sense. And this is why it's important. If you're in any vetting process for any positions or power in an organization, a political party, a business of any size, whether it be small or very large, is important. You don't just ask as many questions as possible to the interviewee, you ask the right questions. The questions that exposes more about this person and what the interviewer leads them out to others to be. Asking the right questions is very important. Not just to get an idea of who this person is, but also get more out of that interviewee about what connections these people have. Are they still strong? And could those connections be a conflict of interest? Be a possible chance of treason? Or a sabotage of power? These are just hypotheticals that could happen at any point in our lives. Now, next, I've sent a screenshot of a Instagram story by the Instagram account Polymarket, and the Instagram story by Polymarket on Instagram is a Twitter X post with the caption reading, "Breaking, Kamala Harris is on the rise to be the 2028 Democratic nominee," provided with the caption in the picture of their Twitter X post reading, "Who will be the 2028 Democratic nominee?" And in descending order, Gavin Newsom on top with 53%, Kamala Harris at 7%, Jon Stewart at 2%, LeBron freaking James, the NBA basketball player. I haven't checked if he's retired or not. The NBA basketball player, the most notable basketball players in the NBA. 1% chance of him becoming the Democratic nominee. And finally, Tim Walz, in the ranking with a chance of becoming the nominee for the Democratic Party at 0.8%. So, when I shared that screenshot of the Instagram story by Polymarket, I replied with, LeBron James, the Democratic nominee. I'm not complaining, I'm just shocked. LeBron James, the well-known basketball player. I've said enough. I mean, if these are the people that's likely to represent the Democratic Party in the Democrat Party in the 2028 presidential election, you have to ask yourself, what are the other Democrat candidates like? What are their ideas for the United States? Now, I'm not surprised Gavin Newsom's on top, given that he may not be the governor of California after his current term ends. Hence why there is a governor race right now, as of this recording, looking at which of the candidates for the Republicans and the Democrats, who's going to be the next governor of California. And Gavin Newsom is not one of those candidates, so it'll be interesting to see what Gavin Newsom does to become the nominee for the Democrat Party to be the winner of the 2028 presidential US elections. And whilst, although Kamala has, I don't want to be too mean. I know it was disastrous for Kamala Harris in the last presidential election. Trying to balance it all out. I mean, given the Democratic nominee candidates, Kamala Harris is doing quite good, very good, and that is saying something. Excluding Gavin Newsom in the Democratic primary to become the nominee for the U.S. presidential election race in 2028, Kamala Harris might as well continue to be in the running, keep going all till the very end, and then boom, Kamala Harris will have another rematch with no, not Donald Trump. I think that depends if Donald Trump is wanting to repeal the Second Amendment of the Constitution, meaning he can run for another term on top of the current term he's in, which is not consecutive with his previous term when Biden won in 2020. I think Kamala Harris, if Gavin Newsom is not in the running to be the Democratic nominee for the US presidential election, Kamala Harris could get a rematch, whether it be with Trump if the Constitution allows Trump to even run for a third term, or she could go up against J.D. Vance. Well, let's just see. Anything is possible. But of course, given the current candidates for the Democratic presidential nominee, Kamala Harris is doing quite well. It's not terrific, but it is something. Perspective-wise, at a party level, she's doing all right. Not too badly. All right, Eric Taylor have sent another Twitter X post by Suppressed News at Suppressed NWS1. The caption of that post reads, the more files released about Epstein, the more disturbing this tweet becomes. And looking at this Twitter X post, this is a screenshot of the official Israel Twitter X account with the caption reading, age is just a number. Kissing emoji. I don't know what to say. Now, before I say anything, someone on Twitter X responded saying they tagged Grok in this, asking, is the a real post? I think this person was meant to say, is this a real post? And I don't think Grok responded. Oh well. I guess we'll never know. Make of that information as you will. Even if there's bright sides to the phrase age is just a number, I'm against it. I am against it wholly, entirely. Age is more than just a number. It shows wisdom, experience, most importantly of all, the compatibility with one another. You can have similar interests to a person, have the same views, and have the same goals. The bigger the age gap, the more noticeable the difference will be between the two people. People with a 20-year age gap may share the same interests, same views. Their experience is the difference. One person can live their life, most of their life, without any form of technology, even the internet, whilst another person from a different generation 20 years later could have lived their entire lives, most of their lives, with technology. That's the point I'm making. It's not just a number. It shows the difference between one person's experience and another person's outlook on life, and vice versa. Again, make of this as you will. Saying age is just a number is an excuse for people to date someone years younger than them and say, oh, it's okay, age is just a number. No, it's not. It is absolutely not. Shut your bleeding mouth, you dirty bastard. No, I'm not. No, I don't give a damn what people say. You cannot be saying that. Absolutely not. Goodness me. Alright. Eric Taylor has sent a Twitter X post Another Twitter X post by the account Leading Report at Leading Report. Caption reading breaking: Kamala HQ fails in attempt to rebrand as just headquarters, claiming Elon refuses to give them the username. Okay. And the username that was given to them is headquarters_67. Of course they did. Who gives a damn about 67? And those who do are just children. Nothing wrong with children having fun and having a laugh. Jokes of any age demographic gets old very fast. No 67, guys. It has to stop. So anyway, back to that Twitter X post that Eric Taylor shared. No, I'm not going to defend Elon Musk on the decision that was made behind why this Twitter X account was not allowed to be given the headquarters username. There has to be some validity and influence, the presence, the aura of this individual. It has to be earned. I will say that. It has to be earned any way possible. I shared a YouTube video by the channel Geo Map Stories, and the caption reads, "Why Qatar and the United Arab Emirates lost land connection." Wow, land connection. Let's have a listen to this, if it allows me.
Qatar and the UAE were once connected by land, back when people could walk freely. Between them were no borders, no checkpoints, and no separation at all. But that didn't last forever. One single line drawn between Saudi Arabia and Qatar changed everything. But that line wasn't drawn by locals. Behind this dispute are, again, the Brits. In the early 20th century, the British controlled the Gulf region. They decided to leave the Gulf completely, but they had one big fear: that Qatar, Abu Dhabi, and the other Gulf sheikdoms might unite into a single powerful state, one that could challenge British influence. So Britain drew borders very carefully. They gave a small piece of land called the Khor al-Udaid corridor to Saudi Arabia, which was the only land link connecting the Gulf states with Qatar. The result, Qatar and the future UAE ended up isolated from one another. For Qatar, the line felt like a trap. For the UAE, it blocked natural land routes. For Saudi Arabia, it was a strategic gift. And for Britain, this separation forced countries to rely more on Britain for protection and stability, which today is the United States' job. But in reality, this line divided relations between Gulf countries that still echo in the region today.
Firstly, that notification pling, very unprofessional. Can't argue with that. Secondly, in regards to that YouTube video I just played a moment ago, it makes sense. Because without land areas being one massive land area, then smaller countries are going to have to rely on external forces and powers in terms of getting resources and other financial benefits to keep themselves afloat. And I think a couple episodes ago is a very long while ago. Me and Risk had this discussion about how land areas amongst the European colonizers in Africa, they divide up countries as little as possible, so that way people living in these tiny countries, they don't have much land to work with, and instead they will have to rely on their former colonizers to keep themselves afloat as a nation. The most infamous example is the Belgian colonies, Dr. Congo, Rwanda, and Burundi. Now, Dr. Congo is doing alright. They are a massive nation in Africa, have all the resources, all the minerals, and all the land area to work with. Burundi and Rwanda, on the other hand, they're very tiny nations. They don't have much land to work with. And there was a point. Both Rwanda and Burundi were some of the poorest nations in Africa. Until one day, in Rwanda, I don't know the full story with Rwanda. What I know for sure, Rwanda, over the next few years, after gaining their independence from Belgium, Rwanda started gradually growing and allowing allowing more female residents citizens to be represented in workplaces and even in their own national parliament, and passing legislation, getting some kind of. They were not relying on Belgium to get any of this, by the way. People in Rwanda had been very creative and innovative, and I believe there had been a genocide, not just a homicidal genocide in Rwanda, many years before, exponential growth, which killed millions of people in the land of Rwanda. It was very awful. I can't stress enough how awful that is for people in Rwanda. It is devastating. Like, millions of people have lost their lives in this homicidal genocide, or genocidal homicide, whatever you like to call it. Since then, people in Rwanda got their thinking caps together, innovate, and think of a long-term plan to further develop their nation to be one of the most prosperous in Africa. And if you go to Rwanda today, you could be arriving at the largest international airport, come out to the airport and see the glorious luxuries, the vegetation along roads, and the high-rises that Rwanda has. It's just amazing what Rwanda looks like and it has to offer. Now, what about Burundi? Unfortunately, nothing. There wasn't much going on in Burundi. I'm not sure if there has been any significant moments in their history that got them to any inspiration. Burundi, to this day, still remains as one of the poorest nations in Africa, not just by nominal GDP, but also by per capita. That's how bad it is in Burundi. I hope Burundi gets on their feet and continues to progress forward into the future. Until then, one can hope, and certainly a few people with enough dedication and local support can help the nation to become as prosperous as Rwanda, despite their size and the massive setback that is a moment in their history that has killed millions of their own people. Very sad. That is all there is to the group chat. There's a lot more, but however, there's not going to be enough time in this episode to get all to that. So, with that being said, let's get right into the news. The news will be plentiful. White House removes Trump post depicting Obamas as monkeys. Oh yeah, I've heard about this. Goodness me. What were these people thinking? Late Thursday night, President Donald Trump reposted a video on Truth Social at 11:44 p.m. US Eastern Time that depicted former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama as apes, which remained visible Friday morning before deletion. The clip was part of dozens of overnight Truth Social reposts from a 62-second conservative video about alleged 2020 voting machine tampering. A White House staffer erroneously made the post. At about the 60-second mark, the clip shows a scene with the Obama's face imposed on primates, accompanied by the lion sheep, the lion sleeps tonight, and a watermark linked to @Jarius_X. The post drew bipartisan backlash, including from Republican Senator Tim Scott, who called it the most racist thing I've seen out of this White House, and groups like Republican Against Trump demanded removal. This adds to scrutiny of Trump's online reposting of memes and AI videos, linking the episode to election misinformation about the 2020 presidential election, and Dominion Voting Systems' nearly $800 million settlement with Fox News. What the fudge, man? What on earth was the thought process behind this? Now, if this was Trump who did this, people saying, Trump might have been drunk one night, and that's how he posted that video on Truth Social. The thing is, and this is true by the way, Trump has said he has Trump says he doesn't drink alcohol, ever. And even if at some point in his life Trump did drink alcohol, he said he has quit on the stuff for quite a long time. I'm not defending Trump on this. I'm not defending the man whatsoever. If Trump was the one who actually posted that video, and given that most likely he was not drunk, he was certainly not drunk, that would be way worse than if he was to post that video of the Obamas if he was drunk, which certainly most likely did not happen. It's a much worse case to post something and be completely sober. Even when drunk, it's still bad. Sober is much worse, in my opinion. And look, you have Republicans saying, Trump, you shouldn't have done this, man. That says something. Now, of course, there's going to be a lot of Republicans that are against Trump because he's too radical, he's pushing too far to the right. It doesn't matter. Although it is important to note that that's not the point. There's people within Trump's own political party saying, what the heck are you doing? Why did you do this? That's how bad it is. To have people within your own party saying, this is unacceptable. It's an absolute outrage. Do not do this. Yeah. I would say, in my opinion, this was all for attention. If Trump was the person who has done this, he knew exactly what he was getting himself into. Trump knew the reaction a lot of people would respond with when they saw Obamas as monkeys. And that's exactly what he's counting on. He used to be a reality star. His whole life is all about getting attention, making a fuss, the gossip, the drama. There's just some lines you do not cross, and this is one of them. Even you're trying to get a reaction out of people, and see their reactions. Aha, you're triggered. Again, don't cross those lines. You could joke about stuff. If you're going to joke about something, don't discriminate someone's identity or background, etc. Even if it's true, don't do it. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. I still advise don't do it. Anyway, that's all I have to say on that. That's all there is to it. Madness. Suicide bombing at Islamabad. Shiite mosque kills 31. Oh dear. So, goodness me. A suicide bombing at Talai Imam Baga in Islamabad during Friday prayers killed 31 people and wounded 169 on Friday, 2026. Police said the attacker was a foreign international linked to Fitna al-Khawar, while no group immediately claimed responsibility. Rescue teams and witnesses said the bomber detonated at the mosque gate after being stopped, with images showing bloody victims and children among casualties. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif met with Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi, ordered a full investigation, and vowed those responsible would be brought to justice. The attack coincided with Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev's two-day state visit, and follows recent deadly Baloch Libertarian Army attacks amid counter-operations killing over 200 militants. Firstly, it has to be said, and I want to say it, because I believe it's the honourable thing to do, rest in peace to the 31 Muslims who have been killed in this suicide bombing, and rest in peace to the 200 militants in the counter-operations. I send my condolences to the friends and family of those people, regardless of who's in the right or who's in the wrong. No one should lose their life for their faith, their ethnicity, identity, did I say their faith, and even the views that these people hold and believe in. It's unfortunate that people lose their lives, whether it be people want to unalive themselves, or through aspects that are far beyond their own control. It's very sad. These killings have happened, and they're still going on somewhere in the world. Hopefully, something is to be done, and it will be done. We just can't be too sure of when this will happen. And if we ever hear of this again, someone is going to be punished, and rightly so. Something has to be done. TikTok hit with charges of breaching EU online content rules. App may have to change. On Friday, the European Commission said preliminary findings show TikTok's app design breaches the Digital Service Act and must change the basic design while the probe continues. The DSA investigation found TikTok's infinite scroll, autoplay, and personalized recommender drive compulsive use, prompting proposals to disable infinite scroll and add screen time breaks, including night lockouts. Commission reviewers found TikTok's internal risk assessments, company data, and expert interviews highlight ineffective time management and parental control tools, while public studies show excessive use by young users. TikTok can now consult investigation documents and reply in writing, while the Commission will consult the European Board for Digital Services and may impose a fine up to 6% of global annual turnover. Regulators cite broader trends such as mounting pressure over youth screen time, with Australia banning social media for under 16s, and TikTok settling a lawsuit last month amid global scrutiny. I have said many episodes ago, and I've said so much about my thoughts on the European Union, whilst, again, there have regulations and rules, whilst sets the standard, sometimes I do believe that there are regulations and standards that are far too strict, that hinders room for innovation and growth amongst companies. This story in question is a different story, I will say. Actually, I'm on board with the EU on this one. In fact, a couple episodes ago, maybe most likely on a different podcast, me, Eric, had discussed the project that we've been working on with Shadow Miner about bringing back bytes, and certainly many years ago, that I agree with. I think people are spending far too much time on social media, and there has to be some kind of limit that it's just hard to get rid of, and you have to wait patiently until the timer runs out before you can use social media again. Most likely, European Commission will say, we need to put limits on young people to say, okay, you've used your screen time for the day. Go and do something else. What if young people are using social media as part of their work? And it is required for them to use social media at any given hour throughout the day, even at night, which by that point they should be going to bed. The elder side of the youth, like adolescents, teenagers, and it requires them to use social media to do that. In my personal opinion, show that this user has been spending a lot more time or a certain amount of hours than they should, then it is necessary to put a 2, maybe 3 hour time limit. They can still use the app, but if there's a time limit imposed on them because of excessive social media use, they should wait at least 2 hours to do something else. When the time is up, then they can go ahead and use it again. that's the way it's going to go. It is a serious concern for young people, or even adults as well. Even the elderly is also concerning. I know one of my parents is spending too much time on social media, but the only difference is they have the free will to get off it at any point they like. Most of their lives, they didn't grow up with the technology we have today, so they're not as attached to technology as people my age are. We're still going to be using technology for whatever purpose in our work or in our own personal lives is provided for us. Screen times on social media, and I agree with that actually. I do that on that front. I absolutely agree with it. How those screen limits are put in place, that also doesn't disrupt people's lives if social media is part of their job, is something that has to be thought about carefully. People will say, just don't use social media now, and then by the time it's nighttime, use all that time specifically for social media. Then what if the work that these people are working in requires them to look at social media every now and then, 24/7? I am not defending social media companies to encourage more screen time. This is about effective use of screen time and whatever limits would likely be put in place. Whatever these measures will be, according to the European Commission, we'll have to wait and see. They've said that TikTok, your app design is not good for young users. You got to do something. What those measures will be, we're yet to find out. Of course, they've said that there should be parental control tools in place, but that's all it is to it. Even parental control tools could also be very loose, depending on the parent that is taking care or supervising the young people. Even with parental control tools, the parents, that's okay. You can use social media as long as you want. I trust you. But then something really horrible happens to them because the parents in question are not observing what's actually going on. And I don't want to be this helicopter parents that just invade on children's or young people's privacy. It's down to the parents to be responsible for their children, not the government. Like what the governments are doing with these policies and saying, oh, people under 16 are not allowed to use social media anymore. Too much screen time for young people. Although, as valid as that argument is, too much screen time, how is it the governments are the ones to say that? Why aren't the parents getting involved? How is it that the parents are the ones being the parents here? This should not be happening whatsoever. I do agree with what they're saying. Yeah, this is not, but to have a international organization or any nationwide government putting such regulations in place is concerning. Then this gives these governments in question all the more power to limit what we can do online and putting security measures in place over time. I'm just saying, as many good points that's been made here, it should be down to the parents to be responsible with the children and what they do online. We should not be getting governments involved in this whatsoever. At all. Even if the government themselves make good points on what they're saying, they should not be getting involved in the first place. They shouldn't. I'd rather have local governments get involved in this rather than national or international organization governments. And that is all there is for this episode.